Hey Xbox One fans, we've been talking about the best games coming out this year. I'm Falcon, and today on gameranx, the top 40 Xbox One games of 2018. Number 40 is Greedfall, which is a game that gets some serious points for atmosphere. Baroque art from the 17th century specifically, and really it's so different, the characters even. We haven't seen a massive amount of stuff on this game yet, but it's giving me Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice vibes, and I like those vibes. Number 39 is Pit People, which is a turn-based co-op adventure strategy game, and if that sounds like a mouthful, it really looks like it might actually have some pretty fun and simple gameplay that really sort of lets you get past the nitty-gritty. It's made by the Behemoth. If you happen to know them for Castle Crashers or Alien Hominid, points to you, they're a phenomenal company and I can't wait for this. Number 38 is Onrush, a racer from Codemasters that is just like, you know what, realism doesn't matter, and I'm with them. We need more arcade racing goodness in our lives that just leans right into the absurd element of the tradition of arcade racers. It's generally an off-road looking game, and the thing that I have to say I definitely like the most about it is that while they're revisiting that type of game, they aren't forcing us to look at the old style graphics. Racing games look so much better now, and they actually really went like, let's find our own distinct visual style. Can't wait. Number 37 is Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, which looks to really be finally following in the footsteps of Castlevania. But far be it from being a ripoff, it definitely has its own tricks up its sleeve. And there are honestly some weird ways it sort of reminds me of PlayStation. Like the first PlayStation has that kind of vibe to it, but obviously the graphics are better. There's tons of potential here, and I really hope that they have gotten a little bit better than the demo, but the demo was a ton of fun still. Number 36, Dakar 18, which if you're not sure what this is, it's a game depiction of the Dakar Rally, an endurance race that translates over to an open world racing game with a world that is 5,791 square miles. Now here's the nice thing about that. An open world in Assassin's Creed that doesn't have a ton of stuff in it. Boring. Open world in a racing game, the terrain's really all that matters, so bring on Dakar. I'll at least try it. The trailer's very cool. Number 35 is Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. We have not had a mainline Ace Combat game in over a decade. It is arcade dogfighting combat, and the thing that I am there for, honestly, is multiplayer. To have this in a current generation game that looks just astoundingly good, graphically speaking, is exciting because the old games are a hell of a lot of fun. Number 34 is Indivisible, a game I actually was fortunate enough to be able to play the demo of. This is really an intriguing game that takes RPG battles to a much faster pace, and it really is a fun version of the turn-based battle game that pretty much takes active time and gets rid of all the menus and places your commands on specific buttons on the controller. It works so good, and if they're able to give us a story that matches the gameplay mechanics, this will actually be among the best RPGs of the last decade, not joking. Number 33 is Super Meat Boy Forever, a game that is indeed showing some serious promise despite losing one of the main founders of Team Meat, but it does also look as if it is taking some risks. A lot of people are kind of like, oh, what is going on here? People are getting the runner vibe from it, but that's okay. Super Meat Boy will exist forever, and Super Meat Boy Forever might be a new gift. The first was so great, I will obviously give this a chance, whatever it is. Number 32 is Valkyria Chronicles 4, which after Valkyria Revolution, thank you so much for going back to Chronicles. This game is being billed as a return to the aesthetics and mechanics to the original game, including some of the progressions that they had from the ensuing sequels. I'm personally just happy it's not Valkyria Revolution, honestly. I'm excited, I like the Valkyria Chronicles games, so trust me, the moment I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is what Valkyria Revolution is, I was like, well, can't wait for Valkyria Chronicles 4. Number 31 is Ashen, a role-playing game about a nomad wandering the world in search of a place, sit down and call home. In a lot of ways it kind of seems like Dark Souls, but in a lot of other ways it doesn't. It has a survival and exploration element, and for me I really like the art style. It kind of reminds me of like a Dark Journey, but obviously the game is nothing like Journey in any way, shape, or form. It's intriguing, and I hope that it's something big. Number 30 is Celeste, a game that just absolutely looks like it is going to take the more platform elements of the platforming genre and give us what comes off as a very unique game. It's obviously more obstacle-oriented from the footage you're looking at right now, and I love the graphics and the music, particularly the music actually. But one thing I also really like is they don't have like a HUD or any information on screen. The way you can tell if you still have your dash ability is her hair changes color, and I just think that's clever as hell, because the less information you have to put on screen blatantly, the easier it is to get immersed in the game. Number 29 is Canary I, which is a horror game based on H.P. Lovecraft's novella, At the Mountains of Madness. However, it is not a depiction of that novella. It takes place mostly after the story takes place, and apparently follows the story of scientists attempting to challenge the absolute limits of nature. Being that we know it's a Lovecraft story, that is a bad idea. That's okay, bad ideas are good game ideas. It's a combatless game, but you can die. There's a lot of hostile creatures, and, well, that sounds terrifying. Number 28 is Extinction, a giant monster battling game where you are an acrobatic, kind of Assassin's Creed-like hunter of giant monsters, except with very large monsters, obviously. You have to mess up their armor, but you can also dismember them, and these enemies can also destroy pretty much everything in the environment, which we're being told are fully destructible and have seen nothing that contradicts that. Honestly, it looks fun as hell. Number 27 is Overkill's The Walking Dead. Honestly, I've said it a lot at this point, but I enjoy the narrative games from Telltale Games, but I have been craving a co-op shooter, much in the vein of Payday and Left 4 Dead. Well, we're getting it, and we're getting it from the developer of Payday, so I think you can guess what it's going to play like. The Walking Dead is a perfect scenario for such a game, and I can't wait to immerse myself in it with a couple of friends. Number 26 is Agony, a survival game taking place in Hell. You can possess the other denizens of Hell, but you have to avoid all of the demons and bad things. It's a game that is just absolute perfect portrayal of Hell in aesthetic, and if the game itself lives up to what we see of it, it's really going to be something different. Number 25 is Mega Man 11, a game that I am really looking forward to on account it gives us what Mighty Number 9 did not. A continuation of the Mega Man series that looks like it has some actual personality, and don't get me wrong, what we saw of Mighty Number 9 in the lead up made it seem promising, but they kinda underdelivered. I'm a stickler for physics. The physics in this look great. Maybe not exactly one-to-one, but a lot closer than you might expect. But that's just me going off eyeballs. I haven't played it. Point is, it's oozing with personality, and that's the important thing. I'm really looking forward to it. Number 24 is Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove. It's really interesting. Adult Swim Games is who's taking it on. It looks to build on the original Toe Jam and Earl gameplay. It adds a little bit more depth, obviously, but this game really just looks right out of the 1990s, despite probably not being technically capable at that time period. And the music we've already heard is Toe Jam and Earl-erific. I'm so there. Number 23 is Deep Rock Galactic, somewhere between a shooter and No Man's Sky. Honestly, like, what a good idea. It's not just like a shooter, it's a cooperative 4-player shooter that looks in a lot of ways like if Left 4 Dead was a wild alien affair, with fully procedural and destructible environments, mining, and a lot of bombs. I cannot wait to try this game, seriously. Number 22 is Darksiders III, a game being made by at least some of the people who made the first two Darksiders games. It will be taking place parallel to the first Darksiders games, as you play as the sister of one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, tasked with finding and killing all of the 7 deadly sins. If you're familiar with Darksiders, obviously it's going to be cool, especially knowing that some of the original people are involved. There's an element of quality control I do expect, and frankly, how can you deny more Darksiders? It's a great series. Number 21 is Dragonball Fighters. If you like Marvel vs. Capcom and Dragon Ball, you're a big dope if you don't bother with this, because this is that. I wouldn't call it a clone, but it owes so much to MVC that you really feel at home if you enjoy that game, but it's Dragon Ball. In a lot of ways, I think it's actually a little bit better than MVC, at least a couple of them. Maybe not the most recent, because I really like the most recent MVC. But this is one that's hard to put down once you pick it up. Number 20 is Biomutant, which looks to combine the mascot platformer from the 90s with maybe an open world Dark Souls-ish arcade beat 'em up, but not beat 'em up. a fast-paced Dark Souls with a cutesy mascot. Yeah, when you describe it, it sounds wild, but I think that's kind of what is drawing me to Biomutant. Biomutant is calling my name, and I look forward to customizing my very own Biomutant. Number 19 is Soul Calibur 6, a game that will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the series and hopefully bringing it back to its former glory. It intends to bring back the colorfulness of the first title, which is always good, and hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls that some of the darker versions of this already dark series have done. Obviously, Soul Calibur is a great weapons fighter, and I really hope that it is brought back to its former glory because I love the first two games. Number 18 is Metal Gear Survive, a game that we were very skeptical of when it was first announced, but the recent beta kind of gave us a little bit of hope. Now, I'm not going to say that I think this is going to be a blockbuster title that everybody says, wow, the world has changed, there's before Metal Gear Survive and after, but it is actually a hardcore survival game that plays like Metal Gear Solid 5. And I don't know if you remember, but Phantom Pain is freaking awesome. To actually have a competent survival game that keeps that phenomenal style of play, as long as they don't screw it up, I'm actually pleasantly shocked. Although they may still screw it up. We don't know. We didn't really get a long period of time with the game. Number 17 is Fee, a game that has been called kind of uneven, but personally I have to stick up for it. It is a game that tries to do so many different things and succeeds at enough of it that I think it's really worth trying out. That really manages to keep my eyes on the screen forever. There are a few things to forgive, but it is a really fun open world platform action puzzle, etc. game. And no, that is not a diss. They just try to do a lot of different stuff. And I'd rather them try to do that and maybe not make a perfect game. Experimentation is good. Number 16 is The Crew 2, which is really giving us a wild look at a world where I guess Inception can possibly happen. Considering the first Crew is a little bit more subdued than this one, I'm not really that upset. I really like the idea that they're leaning into such a bizarre idea. They say it is going to be in the final game, at least at the moment. We don't know for sure. But hey, The Crew's good, an absurd The Crew, with tons of vehicles, planes, boats, maybe better. Number 15 is The Last Night, an absolutely beautiful cyberpunk, side-scrolling, utterly insane-looking game. A pixel art adventure game that flat out looks like nothing else you have ever seen, period. We all have some pretty high hopes for this one. I don't know, it basically ticks every box I would ask for in whatever you would call this. Number 14 is Call of Duty 2018. Now, we don't have a whole lot of information. We just know for certain that there is for sure a Call of Duty game on its way, but there's a lot of speculation it is going to be Black Ops 4, and as you know, I really enjoyed Black Ops 3, probably one of my favorite Call of Duties. Although there's a lot of duds in the series, there's also a lot of high points, and I'm interested because Treyarch does a great job. Number 13 is Vampire, an action-adventure game that takes place in the 1800s during an epidemic. You become a vampire, which is a big inconvenience because before you were a vampire, you were a doctor treating people for smallpox, and now you're like, I want their blood, and I want it bad. The combat looks great in this game, the world looks incredible, and frankly, it could very well be an instant classic. Number 12 is Jurassic World Evolution, which is kind of a theme park simulator, except for with Jurassic Park. It's kind of a game that a lot of us really wanted, to have the management elements and the quote-unquote dinosaur-making elements. The idea of experimenting and creating your own dinosaurs, to me, seems like a really enjoyable one. And then basically making a successful or an unsuccessful park. It's really up to you. I think both could be interesting. But I'm looking forward to this, and I hope you are as well. Number 11 is Monster Hunter World. If you've wanted a Monster Hunter game that is the result of a decade of Monster Hunter games, coming up with a bunch of good ideas and then finally making it all fit together in a big ol' open world, that's Monster Hunter World. I don't know why, but if you don't like Monster Hunter, you're not gonna like this one. But I think that would take somebody who's just like joyless. Monster Hunter is awesome, and Monster Hunter World is the new hotness as far as I'm concerned. Number 10 is Code Vein, a game that takes a lot of inspiration from Dark Souls and plops it into a dark anime setting, obviously post-apocalyptic. And though it does remain dark, obviously it brings some of that anime absurdity into the mix, and that is something I'm very interested in. Number 9 is Skull and Bones, a game derived from the best parts of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, the naval battles. I could pretty much just stop there. That's really all you need to know, but it is a full game based around that. Obviously, they're developing the system so that there's something more in order to base a full game around it, but that was probably still the most interesting thing they've ever introduced into an Assassin's Creed game, and I kind of missed it in Assassin's Creed Origins, but it wouldn't have made sense either. Pirates and all. Number 8 is Kingdom Hearts 3, an utterly convoluted series that we can't help but love anyway. I'm not going to try to update you on where the hell the plot is with this thing because there's a ton of releases, ton of content, ton of material to understand, and I'd argue that it's fun enough, nostalgic enough, and interesting enough that none of it really actually matters. I mean, it matters, but not in the way where you're like, I'll play it, but only if I understand it. No, don't worry about that. Understanding comes later. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a fantastic game, mechanically speaking, and of course, it is an obviously interesting setting. Number 7 is Metro Exodus, taking place after the previous Metro game, setting you in a post-apocalyptic Russian Federation, with a lot of very interesting, creative, and unique monsters you will be fighting against in both sandbox open worlds and linear levels. It's a very pretty game, and it's one of those games that makes me go, why aren't there more games that take place primarily during the winter? There should be more. Number 6 is Far Cry 5, a game that takes the Far Cry formula, drops it in the middle of America, and says, hey, what if it was about an extremist cult? It gives us some of the additions that we saw in Far Cry Primal, such as the training and domestication of animals, while obviously giving us an absolutely absurd new scenario. It's Far Cry. I'm interested. Please don't mess it up. You've done such a good job with these stories and their absolute gonzo nature. Number 5 is Sea of Thieves, an expansive pirate adventure where you essentially pave your way and play with friends. It seems like the very definition of like LARPing, except for it's not LARPing. Virtual LARPing, which might sound kind of weird, but honestly, I'm really looking forward to this game. It's something I really want to play, and if it doesn't end up working out as cool as it sounds, it kind of has a long way to fall before it's bad because their aspirations are pretty high. If we get 75% of what they've attempted with this, I think we're still going to have an excellent game. Number 4 is a Forza game. We don't know for 100% certainty what that will be, we just know there's one coming. And Forza is a good racing series, both versions of it. And I'll be happy to take a new version of either of them. Frankly, it's a beautiful game that plays great, and it's fun as hell. What more is there to say? Number 3 is Crackdown 3, and I'm going to say this until it comes out. You know me in Crackdown 3, I want this damn game, and it takes forever. I feel like we're closer to it than ever, but if we're speaking technically, that's always an accurate statement because time keeps passing. But the destruction of this game is something I look forward to with an intense desire. Also, I'm sure Terry Crews is gonna liven this game the hell up. I can't wait for it. Number 2 is State of Decay 2, a more community-oriented spin on the previous game. I think probably a good choice. The intent is to breed more of a co-op environment, which I think the survival style game probably could use more of this. I think definitely a good move on State of Decay 2's part. It should be a definite good one. And finally, number 1 is Red Dead Redemption 2. I've stated before that I enjoyed Red Dead Redemption more than I enjoy the Grand Theft Auto series, so you could imagine how excited for this game I am. I will say I'm more excited for the single player side of it, just as I am with GTA, to be completely honest. But some of the modes we've heard, specifically the Battle Royale, has got me very interested. I'm pretty big on the Battle Royale. I enjoy the hell out of it. What Xbox One game are you looking forward to the most this year? Leave us a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on gameranx.